Hi folks, we're going to give the people that have those parked way down by the track another minute or two to find a place to sit. But if you're over on this side, you want to make sure you can see this screen all right and clearly, because a lot of the stuff that they're doing is going to be on that screen. So if you want to move, this will be the time to do it. This guy's not on yet. Yeah, okay. Nice. I didn't know what kind of turnout we were going to see here tonight. I heard rumors that New Milford had 85, and Rich Strasher from Leatherstocking told me to prepare for 300 to 500. So, geez, now what are we doing? Anyway, for those of you who haven't seen my ugly puss, my name is Craig Reimel. I'm a member of Borough Council. This is not our function. This is Leatherstocking's function. It's an informational meeting. But we help to coordinate it and get things set and get them rolling. So I wanted to mention a couple things, and I'm not as good at ad-libbing as I used to be, so I'm going to read them. I'd like to welcome everyone and offer a few thoughts on what to expect tonight. Leatherstocking has set out an agenda for the evening that will probably answer most of your general questions during a presentation, which they tell me may last a half an hour, give or take. There will be lots of time after that to answer your questions related to providing gas service in town. I see a couple of people from South Montrose and Bridgewater Township. So we may get into that, but that'll be up to them. If you have more specific questions about your installation or something that's going on that's going to be something to take research or be a more detailed answer, if you would please bear with us and let the guys do some research on it. If you wait after the meeting's over and give them your contact information, they will do the research as necessary and get back to you. We are videotaping, Vera's taping here, and we are videotaping with the Montrose High School AV Club. This will be available on some website or on YouTube, but I'm not just sure where yet. So, the gentlemen that are going to be presenting tonight are Jason Rabineau. You may have heard that last name. It's like here in Reimel, you know. Up in the Triple Cities, Marabinos are all over. Russell Miller and Matt Cook, and I will let them tell you their various functions and their parts of this project. And we hope this is going to be informational and lead to us getting gas piped through the town and ready for this, at least starting this heating season. So, Jason, thank you for coming. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much everyone for coming, taking time out of your busy days to stop here and learn about natural gas. I first want to just make everyone aware that we are a local company with local employees. Okay, we're not from Texas, we're not from Oklahoma, we're local people. I grew up in Norwich, New York. I now live in Binghamton. Matt Cook grew up in Corning, lives in Binghamton. Right? Rich Thrasher, he's from Vestal, New York. Okay? Russ Miller grew up in Corning. Dave Lundeen, a little town of Homer, New York. Joe Moravito, Sydney, New York. So this is not an organization that is a big corporate organization, big oil. It is a local company trying to provide local gas service to you. Okay? Russ will talk a little more about who we are, but as you can see, Leatherstocking Gas Company is a 50-50 joint venture with Marabito Energy Products and Corning Natural Gas. Another important thing is natural gas as a heat source it's not a new product. 51% of America uses natural gas to heat their homes. 51% of Pennsylvania uses natural gas to heat their homes. And as you can see, 25% of Pennsylvania uses fuel oil and 3% of Pennsylvania uses propane. So the point of this is we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is a product that is used all across America and has been used for decades. Before I go to the next slide, I only have 2 slides. I'm going to be the quickest presenter, and there's a reason for that. I want you guys all to remember my 2 slides because really they're the most important 2 slides. Okay? Because the next one is, what is the process of switching? So if you don't take anything home out of this whole presentation, take this slide. How do I switch? I want you to remember this slide. How do I switch? The first thing is you fill out a Leatherstocking application. A lot of you got this hung on your door or you talked to Rich Thrasher. Just fill it out. You can send it in the mail or you can fill it out and hand it to us tonight. If you don't have one, there's a whole stack of them right on this table. You can get one right after the presentation. Okay? What's important is this is not a binding document. This costs you nothing. What this does is it gets on our radar. This puts you on our radar that says you as a homeowner would like to get gas service into your home. Okay? So as soon as you do that, you're on our radar. The second step is Leatherstocking then calls and gets a hold of you, and they come out to your house and they do a site survey. And that's where you talk to our representative about where you want your meter to be. Sometimes it can be right where you want it. Sometimes there's regulations that won't allow it to be there, but we can just put it a little off to the side. But that interaction, that tells you that the process is moving forward, and we contact you for that. The third thing that happens is we run the pipe from the street to your house. Now before that happens, obviously we need to run the pipe down the street. And Matt and Russ will talk about that a little later. But as soon as that pipe is down your street, we're there. We're there, baby. We're almost there. The fourth thing is, once that pipeline is down your street, or right before you know it's definitely coming down your street, you need to contact your local HVAC equipment installer to get quotes on switching your system from either propane to natural gas or fuel oil to natural gas. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions about how much that costs, and Russ will speak to that and give you a little more detail, but it's not as easy as giving you a specific number. What we recommend is that you make sure you do business with someone reputable, someone you trust, and get more than one quote. That's very important. We've also contacted some local banks, 3 local banks, NBT, Community. There's Rich Thrasher in the back. Everybody say hi to Rich Thrasher. He's our Leatherstocking man. There he is. People's Neighborhood, NBT, and Community. All 3 of those banks are aware of what's going on, and they all have programs in place to help you with the cost. NBT's provided some information on the table that you can take if you'd like. Okay? The last thing is the best part. We go out and we turn the meter on. So as soon as your system is in and your HVAC guy says, hey, it's ready to go, you call Leatherstocking, representative shows up, turns the meter on, and it's a done deal. So again, I can't reiterate enough. You walk away with anything. Walk away with this process right here. It's this simple. Now there are details, obviously, that you have to work out yourself, but we're here to help. We have magnets here for you to take. It shows the 877 number, which can answer any of your questions. There's a sales, billing, emergency, and I'm missing one other one. Customer service prompts, and if you click or select one of those, you'll get the appropriate one. So take a magnet before you leave. There's also the website on there. What we're going to do throughout this whole build-out is we're going to make sure that the communication to you is as clear as possible. So we're going to post the progress on the website, and we just learned tonight we're going to try to put it in the Montrose Independent. So we're hoping for weekly updates, maybe every other week, but as we progress, we're going to keep the website updated and try to get as much in the newspaper as possible. Okay? So with that said, you guys are done listening to me. Congratulations. And now we're going to bring up Russ Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. As Jason said, I'm Russ Miller. I'm the VP of Gas Supply and Marketing for Leatherstocking Gas Company. And Jason doesn't get off that easy because he'll be emceeing the question and answer portion of this presentation. So he'll be back up and he'll get run through his paces, I'm sure. As he also indicated, we're a joint venture. We started back in November 2010, filed the necessary paperwork in Pennsylvania to become a Pennsylvania corporation. Our two companies combined have around 190 years of experience. The Moravitos started in 1927, and Corning Natural Gas started in 1904. And we're still a relatively new gas company, believe it or not. There have been gas companies in this country for about 150 years. And the gas company that I'm talking about, the distribution aspect, is probably the most highly regulated aspect of the entire industry. Meaning we have to answer to regulators on a daily basis. I know Matt's always talking to people in Albany and Harrisburg, and so are I. And that's not an indication that we're not good at what we do. It's just an indication of the amount of oversight we get. LGC, Leatherstocking Gas Company, believes it can provide low-cost, clean-burning, locally produced natural gas to industry and residents of the region. And I think we've proved that in Pennsylvania and in regions of New York State already. As I indicated back in September 2012, we were considered an LDC in the state of Pennsylvania. Basically, we got our certificate of public convenience, which means we can serve the public as a utility. We utilize low pressure, state-of-the-art plastic pipe. No compression means no compression station. Serving local customers and community, and we're regulated, as I indicated, by the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission and the New York State Public Service Commission. What that basically means is we have some very stringent guidelines on installation of gas pipe, on operating the system, on the rates that we can charge you, and things like emergency response, customer complaints, very highly regulated. So what's our plan? We want to provide natural gas service in targeted areas of PA and New York, basically areas that have gas supply near them but don't have any gas supply service. So we want to get gas to those areas that are currently not served or are currently underserved. We want to provide low cost, abundant, domestic, clean, natural gas to your home or business. This is our model, very simple model. Wells, gathering system, and/or pipelines. We're the local distribution company. We're the guys that build the pipe in between where the gas comes from and where the gas is going to go to. And you're the end user or local customer. Real simple. Surprised no one's done it earlier in this area. What are the benefits? Locally produced energy source, so we're not dependent upon Saudi Arabia or any other nation for our energy supply. Local economic development, depending on where you are, what state you're in, or what municipality you're in, it has a property tax impact, a property tax benefit. Operations and construction jobs are created, Typically, we try to hire local, we try to use local subcontractors wherever possible. And also, it creates jobs for local HVAC companies. We're not exclusive with regards to who we utilize as an HVAC provider. That's your decision. The only thing that you want to make sure is that they're certified and they're professional and they put the equipment in your home properly. We help local residents reduce costs to heat their homes, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. We help local businesses stay competitive with lower energy costs. Most businesses spend a third of their expenses or greater is energy costs. So if we can reduce that, we're putting money in their pocket, money that they can spend on improvements to the business, money that they can spend on their employees. Help local schools and municipal entities lower cost, and save jobs. So basically, if we lower the cost for that school to operate, that's money that they can spend on additional teacher jobs or retaining teachers or retaining programs. Save local jobs and create new jobs. So this looks very complex, but it isn't. And hopefully my explanation will prove that. But basically what I've done here is, here are Leatherstocking's rates, what we can charge you as a customer. This has all been approved by the Public Utility Commission, and we don't have the ability to change this. So if the cost of gas goes up, we're locked into this rate. If the cost of gas goes down, we're locked into this rate. This is what it costs us to provide you service. The only time that will change is if we go back into the Public Utility Commission and tell them that we would like to change our rates. And then they would have to go through our cost of service and be able to justify what we're asking for. So very simply what I did is I did a conversion. Whether you use fuel oil or propane or natural gas, it all comes down to British thermal units or BTUs. That's the unit of energy that you're basically burning and being charged for. So I converted what we would charge a homeowner for CCF. CCF is basically 100,000 BTU or 100 cubic feet. And I said the average customer uses 1,000 CCF in a normal heating season. So your average heating cost for your home, and this is someone who has a water heater, a gas furnace, a gas stove, is going to run in the neighborhood of $1,600, almost $1,700, okay, right here. So then what I did is I did a calculation that gave you the equivalent cost of propane per gallon and fuel oil per gallon. And everybody's situation is unique. So some of you may fall into this category. I bet you wish more of you did. But if your propane was the equivalent to $1.53 a gallon or less, then you probably don't want to hear anything I have to say. Same thing is true with fuel oil. If it was less than $2.32, you might not be interested in what I'm selling to you, okay? The numbers that I've got incorporated in this model basically are what we found to be typical in this area for last winter, and that is most people paid on average around $3.30 a gallon for propane, or $4.
Could you use the micro?
Sure.
Sorry about that. Is that better? I have a tendency to mumble, especially when I get going. Okay, so what I was saying is that what we found in this particular area is that most people were paying $3.30 a gallon for propane or $4.10 a gallon for fuel oil. And we compared that to what our cost would be if you were a natural gas customer for your home. And this is for a service class 1, which is a residential customer. And basically we've identified that for these costs, and everybody's situation is unique, you have to figure out where you fit in this model, you'd be saving $1,900 if you were a natural gas customer over someone who used propane for the same period. And you'd save around $1,300 if you're a natural gas customer over somebody who was a fuel oil customer And this is a 12-month period, okay? So this next slide basically says, here's my natural gas cost, here's my propane cost, here's my fuel oil cost, and I vary these from year to year. I did a little estimate that takes into account the fluctuation in fuel costs going forward. And I looked at this over a 5-year period. You'd be paying roughly $8,300 for natural gas, $17,000 for propane, $14,000 for fuel oil. And then again, I did an estimate, and everybody's situation is unique, but I said if you're a homeowner that's currently a propane customer and you have internal house piping that's already properly sized, and some of you do, your conversion costs are probably going to run under $1,000. And if that's the case, you're going to see a savings in that first year immediately of almost $1,000 when you switch over to natural gas. The second model is a little bit different, but it takes into account everybody's situation is unique. So this is assuming you're a fuel oil customer currently and you want to switch over to natural gas. We put in an estimated conversion cost of $6,000. Some people may be less, some people may be more. But when we put that in, we saw about a 4-year payback period, which means it would take you 4 years to pay back the installation of a gas conversion from fuel oil based on the difference between what natural gas costs are and fuel oil costs are. So I'm putting this information up for you as an example of what you have to do as a homeowner if you want to figure out what your savings would be, if there would be a savings, and whether or not you want to do this. And as one of our speakers spoke about earlier, they said, let's talk after this presentation or later next week, or call us up and find out what your specific unique situation is. We can identify for you what your energy costs will be if you switch to natural gas. You've got to get with an HVAC professional to figure out what your conversion costs are going to be. So as much as we would like to get everybody in the borough of Montrose, we realize that for some people, it just may not be possible at this particular point. One of the ways we've tried to improve the likelihood of getting you to connect is we've gotten in touch with several banks, as Jason identified, to give you low-interest loans, and I think that will be very helpful for you with regards to converting over to natural gas. Next slide is just an indication of what the continued use of natural gas has done with regards to greenhouse gas. So if you look at this graph, basically what I'm showing you is this blue line is coal consumption. It's gone down significantly. The red line is natural gas consumption, and the green line is greenhouse gas emissions. Now you have to realize that embedded in some of this, there are some renewables, a very small number, under about 2%, but there's also some renewable numbers in there. I just want you to know that natural gas isn't necessarily the reason for all of this, but it's the reason for about 98% of it. So what I'm really trying to tell you is, if you switch to natural gas, you're going to save money, and you should feel good about what it does for the environment. Okay, what we look for. As I indicated earlier, we look for underserved or unserved markets, areas with moderate population concentration, like the borough and several of the boroughs around here. And we look for anchor customers, places that use more natural gas than the average residential customer. So we would want to connect school, which we already did. We connected this school. The new hospital, we're going to be connecting to a new housing that Trehab is building right now. They're all going to use more natural gas, obviously, than the average residential customer. And they're the anchors, and they're the first customer we try to get to. And then after that, we'll connect the residential customers along that particular route. Now, the borough itself is going to be a little bit different animal because we've got most of the anchor customers, and Matt's going to talk about our plans to expand in the borough in just a minute. And again, I just reiterated, location, location, location. Unserved, underserved areas in close proximity to existing gas supplies such as wells, gathering systems, and interstate pipelines. So all the gas that comes into the system right now is coming from the central compressor station down in the town of Brooklyn. So, community benefit, we strive to develop a win-win atmosphere with the community leaders and businesses. So, this isn't a winner-take-all scenario or equation. We have an allowed rate of return, which typically runs around 9%. That's the amount of money we're allowed to put in our pocket if we run the company in a proper manner each year. And basically, if we can do that, and we can lower your energy costs by 1/2 to 2/3, then what we've got is a win-win situation. And before I let Matt take over and explain what we're doing in PA, I just wanted to give you an idea of the areas that we have municipal franchises in New York State. So in New York State, there's a two-pronged process. You have to go to the municipality, get a utility franchise, and then once you do that, you have to go up to Albany to the PSC and say, this is what we want to do. They review your process, your economics, and your plan, and they'll grant you a certificate of public convenience. In Pennsylvania, you just go to Harrisburg, and you really don't need to talk to the municipality. We did that differently because we're used to operating in New York State, so we came to the municipality first, and we think that that's the way we'll continue to operate because we want the people in the towns and the boroughs to know who we are on a first-name basis. Matt, you're up there. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, folks. My name is Matt Cook, as Russ said. I am Vice President of Operations for Leatherstocking. So what that means to you is really I'm the guy that takes care of the construction, the engineering, the design, and the operations of the system after it's completed. Excuse me. So what we're going to be doing, what I want to take you through right now is a little bit of how this system is going to be built, how it was designed, and a little bit about the piping, the safety features of the system, and then talk to you a little bit about, a little bit more about how the connections are going to occur and what we're going to do down the road as time goes on. So Russ left off with New York State. I'm going to show you a little bit about Pennsylvania. We have achieved what he shows here in this green area, is kind of a lighter green area, are the areas where we currently have franchises in. So those are the areas we are looking to eventually run local distribution gas. The green or the brown area down below here in Dimmock, that's an area we're looking at right now to try to get gas into at some point down the road. So the idea is over time to continue to expand the natural gas system as we go along. So I want to talk a little bit about how we started this and how we got this system designed. Many of you know that we put in, I guess you want to call it, the backbone of the system last summer. You probably saw some of our equipment out constructing out in the southern part of the town in Bridgewater area. And what you got here is, this is a map that shows the borough of Montrose right here. And then down here in the kind of the orange is our backbone of the system that brought natural gas up to the borough. And what we did was we built what we call a gate station right down here off of the Williams pipeline. Many of you know the compressor station is built down there in the south, about 4 miles, 3.5 miles south of here. And we built a gate station, just a small station that reduces the pressure of that line, of the pressure that's in that transmission pipeline. And we take that natural gas into our distribution system through that gate station. And what we did is we built pipe. It's a 6-inch high-density plastic, and I'll show you that here in a few minutes. We built that pipe from Pujo's Road, which is where we connected to the Williams station, ran it up Turnpike, up Waterford, and then onto Old Country Road, and onto High School Road, and we fed the high school, and then from there we fed the hospital. And then we came down 706, going west into just before the borough. So if you, whoops, sorry about that. You gotta get used to the buttons. So we ended it right below the lake. Actually, it ends right out there in front of Mooney Real Estate. And that's where we're going to be taking off for next year's construction, or for this year's construction in this case. So what will happen, and what we've done over the last 4 to 6 months, is we have designed the system as the way we think it should be, and the way we'd like it in the end when it's all complete. And what you see here is, it's kind of tough to see, and I'll kind of lead you through it here a little bit, but what you see here is the borough, and these are all the city street, or the borough streets, sorry about that, that are going through the area. And what you have is you have Montrose Lake right here on the right-hand side, and our system ends right about in there. And so what we'll be doing with that is we'll be taking off of that system, and the idea is to run further down 706, or up 706, and take that main backbone, like we did last year, and bring that main backbone down into the borough. And if you can see it, there's two different colors here. There's a green color that's running right along there, and then there's an orange color kind of all around it. That green color is the main backbone, and that's our larger diameter piece of pipe. It's going to be a 4-inch piece of pipe, and that's going to run basically down Lake Ave and down into Public Square and around Public Square and then back down 29. At the same time, we'll have another piece of that will come down high and continue down past Public Square, down on the Cherry, and it'll end down just south. That will be the main backbone that will be put in pretty quickly, and it'll go in starting sometime late May, early June. And what will happen is that at that point, we will then once that main line is in, we would start connecting customers off of that piece of pipe that are along that road, or along those roads that it's out in front of. So there's no question, those individuals that have applied at that point will have the ability to connect to that main as we go along. Now the idea is, as time goes on, or as we are out, Rich Thrasher, who's here, as we are out talking with you and more of you, we're getting applications as time goes on. So what's going to happen is these areas in orange would get filled in as we start getting more and more customers. So the idea is to try to get as many customers on a side street as we possibly can, and then we can build that main out in front of the house, and then connect those customers over the time period. So just to keep you up informed, the idea is we don't want to promise that you will have main out there right away. We'll do everything we can to get main out there in front of the houses, but it's just going to take time because it's going to have to be dependent upon how many people sign up in that or on that street. So I know you're going to have questions about that, and we'll answer those as we go along here this evening. So that's kind of the progress. So what we've done here is we have taken this system, or we have looked at the borough, and we have gone around and worked with the highway superintendent and the water and sewer individuals that are here, and we have tried to put it in the main into places where it's going to be least cumbersome, least effective of the other parts of the system that are already there. We don't want to damage any other utilities that are underground. So we try to install this in such a way that we do the minimum amount of damage, and that's the idea. We got to work here for a long period of time. We're going to be here for a very long period of time. So we do not want to be upsetting any of the, anybody that we don't, we want to work with down the road. So what we did was we've spent quite a bit of time going through this. We're now in the process at this point of getting it permitted. And that permitting process takes a period of time. We've got to go through several different bodies. One is the DEP. We have to permit this through the Department of Environmental Protection. That is underway right now. We anticipate approval of that probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The next is the local borough. We've been working with the water, like I said, the sewer and the highway. We anticipate approval of a permit from them probably in the next month or so. And then you also have DOT roads that run through the village or through the borough. That DOT permit has been in place or in for their approval for just about a month now. So we're waiting for final approval on that. Again, also in about a month. So we're working diligently to try to get this, get it permitted, get it done right, and get it put in properly. So I want to talk a little bit about how that's going to go on. How we build it. We follow all the Public Utility, PA, Public Utility Commission rules and regulations. So we have to follow their regulations to the T. That includes construction and operation of the system. So we have to make sure this thing is operated properly once it's installed. The construction will be permitted, as I said before, by the town of Bridgewater, the borough of Montrose, PennDOT, and the DEP. So we're in, as I said before, we're in the process of getting those permits. We will install this with qualified contractors, and then all aspects of the construction will be inspected by a Leatherstocking Gas Company employee. So we will have inspectors out there. Those inspectors will not only watch the construction and ensure the construction is built, or the main and services are put in by our standards and the state rules and regulations, but they will also be kind of our communications people with you. So as time goes on, we're putting a pipe down the road, they will be in contact with all of the landowners and the residents, knocking on their doors and making sure they know we're coming. So that'll, they act as kind of as a little bit of everything. All LGC, all Leatherstocking employees and contractors are drug tested, and they will be operator qualified. So they will have operator qualifications that prove that they are capable of doing the inspecting, capable of doing the installation, and the maintenance work in the future. Systems will be constructed of high-density polyethylene that's black with yellow stripe, and the MAOP of that system will be 124 pounds. So I want to talk a little bit about the material and what you're going to see going in out there, so that you guys are familiar with it. At the end of this, I'm not going to pass around. At the end of this, you can come down and take a look at what's here. But what we have here is it's high-density polyethylene. It's a material that it's plastic. It's essentially plastic. It's the system that has been favored for a good 40 years now, 30 to 40 years. And this plastic was invented because of the problems with steel are that corrosion. You've got to be very careful about corrosion in steel. So the industry needed a better, lower cost system that you can put in quick, and it will last a long time. It's, like I said, it's been in place. We've had it in place for 25, 30 years. The utility industry has had it out there longer. And it has proven to be a very good system, very easy to maintain and very easy to install, and a very safe system. So this is an example of a piece of main. That happens to be 6-inch high-density plastic. You'll notice when you do come up, if you do come up and take a look at it, it's got a very thick wall thickness. It's approximately 3/4 of an inch in thickness. The two pieces these come in pieces that come in 40-foot lengths. And what happens is you fuse those pieces together. And much like a weld on a piece of steel pipe, that fusion is tougher, is actually more solid, more capable of handling force and pressure than the pipe itself. It actually is a stronger joint than the pipe is. So that joint will hold up under all conditions. It holds up under frost. We bury it deep enough, but not below the frost level. And the reason the depth this will be buried, and we'll talk a little bit about that, the depth of this distribution system will be is approximately 30 inches to 36 inches. And the depth is dependent upon, one, the governing body. What does the municipality wish that we bury it? The rules and regulations say you can go 30 to 36 inches, which is above frost line, but it's also at a point where it's above any of the water or sewer system that might be in there. And you want to try to avoid that. We don't want to hit the water and sewer, and they don't want to hit us, so we stay at a different elevation, basically, than they are, so that way it keeps us separate from any of the water or sewer. So this is an example of a piece of medium density plastic. You'll see it's yellow, and that seems to be the more common material that you see a lot of times out there that's installed in a distribution system. But this is an example of a 2-inch piece of plastic that has a service lateral that comes off of it that would be feeding an individual's residence or your home or something like that. And essentially it's a T that gets clamped onto the pipe, and off of it comes the 1/2-inch piece of plastic that feeds the residence. And that T is what gives you guys the gas. In that T, well, let me move on as far as some of the safety features that you're going to see that are built into this system. As I said before, we're using state-of-the-art materials. It's the plastic that's been used for a very long time, but it is the state-of-the-art. It's installed with locating wire, tape, and sand. And the reason we do that is there's not a machine out there right now that you can locate plastic with. Not that I know of. It's unfortunate you can't locate plastic. So what you have to do with it is you have to install a piece of wire with it. And you install that wire right alongside it, and that's this. Let me set that down. And that's what this piece of wire is. It's just basically a copper wire with a coating on it. You install that wire parallel to it and right alongside of it. And what happens is when you bring this wire up at endpoints, you bring it up at service locations, you bring it up at various other points along the way, you can actually connect to that wire with a locator and locate that piece of plastic after it's been installed. So that's a critical piece that you have to have. That way you can locate that system later on when somebody does need to dig around you. So then after that wire is put in and the pipe is put down, the entire area above and below that main or service is encased in sand, basically a coarse-grained sand. And what that does is a couple of things. It protects the pipe from rock and any other impingement of anything else that might be in the soil. But it also provides provides us a safety kind of space, so that when somebody's excavating down by our system, they'll see that sand and they'll know, hey, I've got to be careful because I've got something else in there that's not native, and that's when I say I better slow down. But above that sand is a piece of caution tape that's installed just about 12 inches above the main, really. So it actually turns out to be about 6 inches above the sand. That caution tape, it's a polyethylene material, and it's very stretchy. And what happens is that excavator, the guy with the bucket, digs that piece of tape up, and that stuff stretches 10, 15 feet. So you'll pull that bucket up out of the ground, you'll lift it up, and you'll see you got a piece of tape attached to it. Hopefully it'll stop at that point. That's the hard part, is getting people to continue to realize that there's something going on. You can see that the pipe is installed with a yellow stripe on it. That yellow stripe indicates that it's gas. You'll see black with blue stripe, that's water, and you'll see that a lot. You'll see some other black out there too that might be sewer or some other kind of material for other utilities. So it's installed with a locating wire, tape, and sand. All the system is pressure tested prior to putting into use. It's pressure tested to a point above its operating pressure to assure that all the joints are safe, to assure those service tees are put on properly. It assures that it's safe coming right up to your house. So once the pressure test is approved and passed, then gas can be introduced in the system, not until then. We install isolation valves on all the mains. So that means that we have selected areas throughout the entire that map there of the borough. We've selected areas in there to try to isolate if something were to happen to that main. Let's say that guy that's digging just doesn't want to stop after he hits this. He continues and hits the main. It's happened. No question. It's the worst thing you want to happen. But as long as you have valves on the system, we will. You have the ability to shut that flow off of that system, and then you can, effect a repair and go back to normal operation. Each service also has, each residential service has a what's called an excess flow valve, EFV. And that excess flow valve is built right into the T. And what that's there for is in case that guy is digging along and he hits your service line. So you had somebody come in and put in, I don't know, a front porch or something off your house, and he hits that service and he breaks it, that excess flow valve will immediately shut off. And so that stops the flow of the gas coming up to the house. So that way, you would not have gas traveling underground and getting up into the house. So that would stop automatically. And what happens is once we get there and we effect a repair on that service line pretty quickly, and once we get that repaired, that excess flow valve will trip back open on its own and then start resume the flow of gas back into the house at that point. So then next thing is there's meter sets. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. The meter sets will be installed outside the building, and they're installed with a valve on them also. So in case something happens and we have that, we get called by the fire department to house fires a lot, not due to gas, due to other reasons, but we get called for everything whenever there's a gas service there. And if there's a fire at the house, we'll respond and we go out and shut that meter off just to be safe. Just like the electric company is oftentimes called to a house fire also, they're called in to shut the electric off too. Some more safety features. We are a one-call member, so we are a one-call PA member. What that means is we provide them with all of our maps of our locations of our mains and services, and that's the one-call system is something you all should know about. I'm going to kind of preach here a little bit, but that's something that everybody ought to know about because it's a system that is set up by the state to protect the underground utilities. And what it is it's you digging, if any one of you are out in your yard, putting in a fence post, putting in a, like I said, a front porch, something like that, where you are excavating in the ground, we implore you to call 811, which is the one-call location. What happens is you call that 811 number, you tell them what you're doing, you tell them where you're at, and they will send all of the utilities out there that have given them maps of their underground utilities, and they will send them out there to locate those utilities for you so that you do not hit a water or a gas or a sewer or an electric line or anything else, cable, anything like that. So that is something that everybody ought to be aware of, and please keep that in mind. But we belong as a member, so therefore we sponsor things and we do a lot of other stuff with them, but we definitely are involved whenever there's a one call. We have remote pressure monitoring at our gate station down on Puzos Road, so we watch what the pressure is on this distribution system, and we can see if we start to have problems ahead of time, and we can do something about it. We can respond. We also have an emergency response with a 24/7 call center. You can see our phone number up there. Our call center is located in Wellsboro, and what happens is you 24/7, you call that 800 number, and somebody will respond to a gas emergency or an odor call. That is required. We are required to respond within an hour. And we perform a leak survey on a once every 5-year basis. So we will actually walk and or drive over our entire gas system once every 5 years to assure with a device that actually can smell natural gas. And we do that so that we can detect leaks that may occur and that could occur. Now the beauty of the plastic system, leaks don't occur. It's a solid system. There's no corrosion. The only thing that really causes a leak on a plastic system is somebody digging into it with an excavator or some other device. I skipped over one thing up there. We also put a distinct odor into natural gas. A lot of you probably have smelled propane, and being that there's natural gas all around us, you might have also smelled natural gas, but we put in a distinct odor, mercaptan, that gives it that odor that it's supposed to alert you as soon as you smell it. You're our biggest proponent in that. You are our best, our front runner on making sure a gas leak gets taken care of. So you smell natural gas, please call. Don't be afraid to call because we have to respond. We as a utility are required to, and we as a utility feel we have to. So we will respond to all gas leaks. So what I want to kind of give you a little idea is how this works and how the system actually gets installed on a city street or a borough street. What you see up here in the upper left-hand corner and down in the lower left-hand corner are kind of examples of the gate station. And that's a top view. That's looking down on top of a gate station right there. It's a relatively small piece of property, 100 feet by 100 feet, 150 by 150. But in there you have regulators, you have the meter, you have an odorizer, you have pipe and valves and things like that. If you get a chance, drive down on, you won't even be able to see it, but you drive down on Puzo's Road, and it's about, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile up Puzo Road on the right-hand side. It's on the same side as the compressor station, and it sits right down on their property, right on the compressor station property. Not much to it. It's enclosed by a fence, so it keeps those people out that shouldn't be in there. And it has all of our monitoring equipment in there also, so that we can monitor the pressures on. And then down on the right, I went too far, I went way too fast, sorry about that. Down on the right-hand side here, this is a view of a kind of a country road that has, if you didn't see that yellow line marker there, that's another safety thing that we will install. If you didn't see that line marker there, you wouldn't know that basically right under that line marker is a gas distribution line that's serving customers all along that road. You wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't know that it was there. That was a year after it was installed. You can see it's winter. So the restoration is good over these things, and you don't even know they're there once they're there. So let me go to the right slide after that. So here is a plan view of what we typically look like when we're running a main down a village or a borough or town road. And you'll see the main is in yellow and it's running parallel to the road. Our idea is to try to run it in the road right away. The franchise grants us the ability to install that within the road right away. And most of the highway superintendents and the highway departments like us to be as far off of their right of way as possible. Not off of it, but as far off to the outside edge of their right of way as possible. They prefer us outside of the sidewalk if they could. And I don't blame them, because they want room to be able to do things that they got to do. They got to be able to put the water in and sewer and everything else. So they want us as far to the edge as we possibly can go. So that's why you'll see, as time goes on, our design shows us in some places kind of odd, but we're trying to stay out of the way of the water and the sewer and everything else that was in there before us. So then each service would come off of that and go into each of the houses. And you can see those lines going side to side. And those services we try to run, well, the meter set, and Russ kind of touched on this, we try to put those meter sets as close to that main as possible, meaning on that side of the house. So if the main is out in front of your house on the street, then we try to put that service on the front of the house. Sometimes we maybe go around the corner to the side of the house, but we really want to keep it as short as possible. That way, one, you don't have a lot of service line going all over your yard. A lot less of a chance for you to hit it with a fence post down the road. So the shorter you can keep it, the safer it's going to be. So that's why we really want to keep that in that area. You can see kind of a side view of the same thing, the main running down the street, and then the service comes off, and this one went into the front corner, this one went into the front corner. We just don't want it to go around the back and circle the house 2 or 3 times before we go in. That's not the right way to do it. So we'll try to keep it as short as we can. Center is a typical meter set. You can see there's going to be a regulator in this case. You got the riser coming up out of the ground, going into the meter, and then the outlet of that meter is where you take over. That's where your HVAC contractor will connect to the outlet of that meter. Will leave you with a piece of pipe facing one direction or the other, and then your HVAC contractor will come and connect to that piece of pipe. That's your responsibility, is to bring that piping out through the wall and tie it into the outlet of the meter, and then we will make a connection, or your contractor can make that final connection. What we do then is we come in and we do we ask you to provide us with a signature that says, yes, that your piping, your internal piping, has been pressure tested. So your piping has to be pressure tested to make sure it's safe, to make sure it will hold the media. Then we go in and we actually do kind of a secondary pressure test. We do what's called a dial test. So we'll put it on for 15 minutes and we'll watch actual gas pressure in that service. And we'll watch the little dial there to make sure it holds pressure. If it does, all's good. We then can finalize turning the gas on and get your appliances turned on for you. So like I said before, that natural gas meter, I keep pushing the wrong button. That natural gas meter, can be located, we prefer it located out in the front of the house if that's where the main is, or on the side. You can put something in front of it. We have people asking if they can put bushes in front of it, or a small fence, or something in front of it. That's fine. I don't have any problem with that. Keep in mind that our meter reader has to get back in there to be able to read the meter and be able to access the meter if we ever need to change it out. Because those meters do occasionally have to be changed out. We do have to do a change out program so that they get changed out on a periodic basis. So we got to have access to that meter. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that there's no falling ice, snow. Don't shovel snow up against it. Don't bury it. Don't put a lot of stuff in front of it. Don't, just treat it kindly. We don't want ice falling off the roof on top of it. Just like any propane meter, you don't want the same thing because it could damage it. You get a damaged meter, then you got a problem. It could be gas issues. So we got to install it in a safe spot. You'll see that there's a valve on it, so we can shut it off. Like I said before, there is a wire. You can barely see it. There's one of those yellow wires coming up out of the ground. That's one of our connection points, so that we can go back and locate your service. And then we can also locate the main with that wire too. So that gives us a lot of information. So that we ask that you treat that wire nicely. It's wrapped around there, and it usually it'll last forever. But just don't break it off or anything like that if you can avoid it. On the left-hand side, the picture here is a typical trench and pipe installation. You'll see in that case it was 4-inch black plastic that was being installed. They essentially dig the trench and then make sure it's clean and level, and then put the pipe down in. Put sand in first, put the pipe down on top, and the sand on top, and then the wire and the tape, and then backfill it, and off they go. And then restoration will occur shortly after. Restoration. We will restore everything we damage. We will restore it to as good as found conditions. So if we have to take a sidewalk piece up, we will replace the sidewalk piece. We will have to definitely dig across your lawn in order to put the service in. We will restore that lawn to as found conditions. Driveway, if we have to cut a driveway, we will replace, and again, I'm going to be in the right of way with our pipe, so we'll be down towards the end. So if we have to cut the driveway, we will replace that trench with blacktop or whatever the case may be. We'll do everything we can to not open cut. I'm going to tell you that. We'll do what we can to not open cut. We can use boring methods for putting in pipe without digging a hole or excavating. But that's not always going to happen. And so I'm just going to be honest with you, it's not always going to happen just because there's stuff called consolidated rock around here. And I heard a lot about it. And it scares me. That's why I don't have much left on the top. Because it's going to be tough. Because I've heard there are spots in the borough that there is rock. And so I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to bore through that. That would just be, it'd be a real tough thing to do. So we're going to end up having to open cut some of the stuff. And that's just unfortunate. That's kind of the way it is. You can see over here on the right-hand side, it's the last slide. I'm going to finally figure out how to work the buttons. Over on the right-hand side, that's a crew installing a meter set up on a corner of a house. And they're kind of working through bushes and flowers and all that kind of stuff. We'll do our best not to damage the bushes. We'll do our best not to kill the flowers. We have gone as far as moving the flowers, moving the bushes, and then installing it, and then putting it back like the way it was after. We will, if a year down the road and the bush is dead, and we can all say, yeah, that's because of our crew doing that, then we'll replace the bush. But it's got to be, can't be something that's been dying for 3 years before we got there. So you just have to be, you got to be careful about that. So am I not getting the signal to move on? I think that's all I've got. I think we're going to open this up to questions. I'm going to turn it back over to our MC, Jason, and let him roll. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we move on, I just want to give everybody a reminder. Over here on the table, we have magnets with our 800 number or 877 number. We have Rich Thrasher's card. We have an application. We have the Montrose customer guide. A lot of you guys, homeowners, got this on your door. If you didn't, they're up here. And then a flyer from NBT Bank. So if you have any questions, come right up to the microphone, and we'll try to answer as best we can. Well, go ahead. You can shout it out.
Okay, you talked about orders, okay? Aren't there sensors on there to pick up the orders if you're upstairs in your bed? And that you can put down near the source?
Yes, I heard somebody say yes. Yeah, there is methane detectors that you can purchase, Home Depot, any of those, that you can put in your house that will smell, not the odor, but it smells the gas, the methane itself. Okay, we have odor detectors that we use, but they are very sensitive and very high cost and a high maintenance device. It's not something that me as a typical homeowner would be able to afford. So the methane detectors are perfect. I mean, that's what natural gas is. So they work really well.
Because I can't always trust my nose.
That's true. You gotta only smell it when you really need to smell it, right? But yeah, in our world, we're hoping that at some point that methane detectors become basically a standard like smoke detectors are, right? And I'm not sure where we're at on that, but I would imagine it's a matter of time, and we'll be seeing methane detectors probably in every home at least. So, is that good?
Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead. Yeah, you.
Do you have a list of approved HVAC contractors?
We have to be careful about recommending people for liability reasons, but what I would say is talk around town. There's local reputable companies who've been working on your current furnaces or boilers that more than likely are able to supply natural gas furnaces. But if you want to come up afterwards, we can give you a list of a couple people that come to our mind. But we just have to be very careful as a utility of recommending someone because if something goes wrong with that particular unit, it could come back on us. But what we recommend is get more than one quote and use someone that you know is reputable.
What is the anticipated lifespan of the gas wells in this area?
Yeah, I mean, really, we don't know that. That has nothing to do with us. We're just a distribution company. So when it comes to fracking or drilling or anything like that, that is completely opposite of what Leatherstocking is. So for the life of me, I couldn't answer that, to be honest with you.
When do you anticipate coming, looping back up 706? When you come down Lake Avenue and then looping back towards Pump and Pantry? Is that what your plan is? And then along with that, how long do you anticipate it's going to take to do the whole borough?
Good question.
What's your timeline?
This summer, no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna let Matt take that. If it was up to me, it'd all be piped right now, but he's the operations guy, so.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
As far as the first question, looping back to the pump and pantry, right now we don't show a pipe coming back to the pump and pantry, but we intend to, definitely. Our issue there was I've been $1 late and a day short all along with 706 rebuild. I missed it coming up this last year, which I'm sure you guys weren't happy about, because then I had to dig right alongside 706 again. And I missed it again this year, so we just didn't get in there to be able to get our pipe in place. I wish we had been in more communications with the DOT, and I apologize for that. So what's the idea coming back to 706, back up towards Pump and Pantry, McDonald's, and the Ford dealership and all that, is what we're going to do is we're going to run that 4-inch main line, that stuff I showed you in green. We're also, what I forgot to tell you, is we're going to run a 2-inch line coming down Lathrop to feed the elementary school. We're going to take that all the way down to the end of Lathrop this year, regardless of how many customers are in that area. But the reason we're going to do that is then that gives us the ability to tee and go up west on 706, east on 706. But that's going to take a lot of time because we're going to have to work with private landowners and things like that. It might not be this year. It just depends. Well, and the reason I say that, it just depends on how many people want the gas along there, and then how long it takes to get. We're going to have to get easements along there, I think. That's probably what we're going to end up doing. So.
I'm just looking across, I see the customer, so I just want to come.
Yeah, I would love to be all of it done by winter. But so the idea is we're going to, like I said, we're going to do that backbone first, and then as people put in applications, we're going to start putting pins on the maps.
Website.
Yep.
Timeline for this website?
Yes, we've got a website. It's leatherstockinggas.com.
That's written on the magnet?
Yeah. First of all, the website's up and running now, and if you go on there and there's a selection for local distribution, click on that, and there's a map. The map that you saw up here with all the streets is on the website now. So as we move forward and build the system out, we'll have weekly or maybe bi-weekly updates. As Matt pipes streets, we'll be posting it right online. Yeah. Go ahead.
It says you can't vent the furnace into an unlined chimney. So there's a lot of unlined chimneys around here.
I'll let you take that.
That is a problem, no question. Yes, you really don't want to vent anything into an unlined chimney, let alone natural gas. And that's an issue, no question. We deal with that all the time, where we have customers that have had old oil systems or wood systems or something, and the chimney's unlined. And so basically you've got to figure out a way to get that chimney lined in order to make it safe. That's the idea. I can't sit here and say, don't worry about it, but you've got to, you really do. And I know that's something we as a utility don't regulate, but I sure would not want somebody out there not lining their chimney, because that's a big issue. So,
Yeah, explain what, it says 6 months from the date of installation. If you're not drawing gas, you have a service payment. Explain that.
well, what we have done is, because of there is a cost. I mean, we haven't even talked about the cost of service and all that kind of stuff. There is a cost of serving a customer, no question. What we are allowed to do and what we do as a utility is we go 100 feet of main and 100 feet of service per customer. So what that means is, let's say the main's already out in front of your house. Let's say your house sits 60 feet off of the main, off the center line of the road. Your service to you will be at no cost. The service line, the installation, the meter, all that will be no cost to you. If it goes above, if you're 100 feet being off the edge of the road or beyond that main. Yeah, sure. It's not 100 feet. Am I wrong? No. Oh, why? Here to restate that. I know.
No. In our rates, embedded in our rates, we have something called a SEAC That it's basically, it's a 30 cent per CCF or $3 per MCF charge. So when we go into Montrose or any other borough, from the minute that we start providing service for 10 years, the service line is free because it's embedded in the rates. After 10 years, that service line charge goes away. So what will happen for people who already have gas service in, the rates will be reduced by $3 an MCF. For people who want gas service after the 10-year period, then we'll have to do that calculation of 100 feet of service and 100 feet of main. So the time to hook up is now.
I stand corrected. Sorry, thank you. But I got to finish answering his question. So the cost of your question related to...
You're not hooked up within 6 months of
Right.
having the meter installed.
Exactly. So let's say we do install, let's say you filed an application, we go out and install that service. We will, at the end of 6 months, if you haven't connected to it and started using gas, we have the ability to start charging you for the cost of that service. Am I saying that right, Les? Okay. You should never let a operations engineer guy answer the marketing and supply questions.
Vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. The guy in the green shirt has been raising his hand a lot, so.
Two things, Steve, all lines, aluminum liner is all it needs, it's easy to do. We have a service for that.
That was a plug.
Couldn't help it. And I'm retired. The second question is, we've stated in an emergency you have 1 hour to respond.
Yes.
Is there someone going to be in the local area that can respond, or do we have to wait for somebody to come from Binghamton in an emergency situation?
Well, we're
I'm sorry, just put it down 911 and small gas.
you can. You can do both.
You have to turn it off.
Yeah.
Our company won't touch it.
Yes. Although I say that, and we got a lot of fire departments in our area that will shut the gas off. And
Can the consumer turn the meter off?
yes. Let me answer one question at a time, though. I'll come right back around and we'll get all that. Yes, we have 1 hour to respond. We will have somebody here. He or she might not be living right here in Montrose, but will be close enough by to make that 1 hour. And the reason I say that is because we're looking at going into New Milford, we're looking at going into Great Bend, Halstead, we're looking at Windsor, New York, we're looking at a lot of different locations. I'm going to have to cite these individuals in a spot that can kind of hit all of them. And as we grow, as time goes on, we're going to have more individuals that will be able to respond. So we will always have somebody within that hour's time frame. Absolutely. It's got to. I have to. Did that answer your question?
The faster the better.
I agree. I agree. And then you made a statement or question. What was it? Sorry.
No, what the 911.
911. Yes. You have the option of calling either one. I prefer you call the 800 number. We'll get that 800 number out more and more as time goes on. Bills and bill stuffers will show that. We'll have a website. We'll have in the paper, so you'll see our 800 number. But you can call 911. Absolutely. We have that happen a lot. We'll be called. In fact, we will be called a lot of times by the fire department before we will be called by the landowner or homeowner. And that's okay. Well, they usually get called just because more people are comfortable with 911 than they are with the 800 number. And then you said...
Whether or not the homeowner can turn the meter off
Yes.
themselves.
Yes, so yeah, you absolutely can. There's no reason you can't turn it off. You know, if you have a problem, you smell gas, absolutely go shut it off. That's why we don't lock that. That's why it's there so that everybody can get to it. Could cause a problem, somebody shutting your gas off for you, but that people don't usually touch it. So yes, that is there for that option to be able to shut it off. You know, I'm going to admit it, I've done my own piping in the house, and I've shut that gas meter off and done the piping and then turned it back on.
Well, on that topic, is there a way to prevent some enemy from turning off your gas?
Wow, you got that kind of enemy that'll shut your gas off. What's next, electric? You do. You gotta get some better friends, that's all I can say.
That's your answer?
No, is there a way, if you're concerned about it, that can be locked. Those valves, well, I don't have the picture of it out there. Those valves have a locking hole in them, basically. So you could put your lock on there if you wanted to. I'd prefer you not, because then if we got to get there and shut it off in an emergency, that's a problem. Honestly, in my short time that I've been in this business, 25 years, I have never seen anybody shut somebody else's gas off.
I wish I thought about that when I was a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great idea. There's a million people, I don't even know who was first. So I'm going to start way back in the back and work my way forward.
Just a short question, conversion, when you were talking about savings and the conversions from oil and propane, was that BTU or BTU conversion, gallon equivalent?
I did it utilizing BTU. Basically, I looked at the BTU that was in a gallon of propane versus the BTU that was in CCF of natural gas.
Natural gas, you will probably use a little bit more natural gas to get the same amount of BTUs.
For natural gas, for 1 CCF, there's 100,000 BTU. For 1 gallon of propane, there's 91,600 BTU. In oil is 1,390, I believe. Correct?
On the back of this packet, afterwards, come and pick it up, there's a nice table there that outlines the BTUs and the price per gallon, everything. Basically summarizes what Russ went over earlier. Go ahead, sir.
If you anticipate maybe hooking up at a later date, is that a penalty? Is that a problem if you don't hook up when the system is placed?
Not at all.
Not at all, yeah.
You can hook up at any time. It's not like a water system where you get paid, you have to pay to hook up, or you're forced to hook up. No. As long as we build it out in front of you, then you can hook up at a later date.
The reason I ask that, and this might be helpful to everybody, because I shared it with Rich and he wasn't aware of it. I have heat pumps that are air and heat. They're electric. The cost of electric isn't too bad. You can put natural gas conversions into those heat pumps. I wasn't aware of that. So I can replace those units with gas units. But I just replaced one last year, so I'm not going to run out and buy another. That's the question.
Okay, you got it. Go ahead.
Back to your 6-month service fee, what kind of a fee is that? Is it a fee each month? And how, like, what kind of money are you talking?
Russ, go ahead.
We would look at this on a case-by-case basis, but basically it costs us around $1,600 to put a service line into a home. So we would look to recover that on a monthly basis. So you'd get a bill from us basically whether you're using natural gas or not. And the 6-month number, I don't know, is actually a hard number at this point, because what we did with the people in Bridgewater is we actually gave them a year grace period. So I'm assuming that the fellow I work for, Mike German, will do the same thing in Montrose, okay? Yes, ma'am.
One is kind of related to this. Do you have to does it have to be a furnace? Can it be
No.
a hot water heater and a dryer?
Yeah.
As long as you're using gas, does it matter? Or
As long as you're using gas. So a lot of people will do that. People in particular who have an electric water heater. An easy conversion is just to put in a gas water heater, and you're going to start saving money instantly. And that's fine. That meets our criteria. You're using natural gas. Yes, ma'am.
What are the property tax benefits that you spoke of?
Well, I said, and I had to be careful with that, because I learned when I came to PA that it's not the same ballgame as it is in New York State. So in New York State, and I did qualify that by saying in the municipalities that we serve, some of them, meaning New York State, basically when we put the plant in the ground, when Matt builds pipe, that pipe is assessed the property value by the people in Albany. So if they say our pipe is worth $3 million, then basically we have to pay an equivalent amount of property tax on that to the municipality that we're in. We pay school tax on it also. So it has a school tax and a property tax benefit for the municipality.
Is that true in Pennsylvania?
No, unfortunately. Yes, sir, in the orange.
If you have already put a permit in, do your hookups go in as you're putting the main
That's a Matt question.
Yeah, that's a good question. What we do is we'll put the main in first and then come back and do the services afterwards. And the reason we do that is a couple of fold. Is one, you don't know who's going to take gas, and you could end up putting a lot of service tees in, those things I showed you, and then you got all these things hanging off the main, and it's somebody could hit them and damage them down the road and all that kind of stuff. But you don't want to put those in because one thing I forgot to mention is before we pressure test this, we run a pig through it. You guys have heard of pig. We'll run pigs through these mains in order to clean out any of the whatever gets in there. If there's plastic shavings or dirt or rock or anything like that inadvertently gets in there, we clean it out before we run gas through there. So you don't want to have those tees on there and have them sticking down into the main, because that's what they do. They have a little cutter in there that sticks down into the main. So it's that, and the fact that I just don't want to put them all out there and then not have them used.
The problem with that is a timeline for a person to unhook their heat and have the heat gas hooked up in time for the winter. So what kind of timeline can we count on after that line is in front of our house?
Well, if the line's out in front of your house, let's say it's out there this year, you're almost guaranteed you're going to have it. You're going to have service in time for the winter of this year. Okay, so there's really nothing holding us up from coming back and putting in the service afterwards. The services were all permitted along with the main. So I have every one of these services shown that, if there was a map up there right now, that shows all those all those services that are associated with that have been permitted. So there's no delay as far as permitting or anything like that. It's just a matter of now we get a crew out there to start installing services as we go along. So what will happen is the main, let's say we're putting that 4-inch main in. We put that 4-inch main in all the way as far as we can go with it to the end. And then a crew would come back and somewhere in, probably before that main is done, a crew would come back and just start installing services. Bang, one after another, and start working their way down the street. It's the ones where we're not putting the main in maybe this year because we haven't had enough that could be an issue. We're gonna have to be in communications with everybody here, and that's gonna be tough. It's not gonna be easy, but we're gonna try to communicate with you through the website, through the paper, telling you where we're at as far as where we're constructing. And then it's gonna have to be some communications from these guys, our marketing guys, kind of letting you know also where we're at and giving you a heads up. And I also mentioned we'll have inspectors out there. Those guys act as, like I said before, inspectors and knocking on door guys. They'll knock door to door, they'll keep ahead of the crew, let you know what's going on. Hey, we'll be here in 2 weeks. Hey, we'll be here next week. Be prepared. And that kind of gives you the immediate notification. Oh boy. All right, right here.
Back to the chimney issue, I've seen gas installations, gas burners with a poly PVC pipe going right out the foundation,
Yes. Yep.
right onto the driveway.
Direct.
Does that work here also?
Yes, absolutely. Those are the higher efficiency, 92% higher efficiency furnaces and water heaters. They direct vent right out through the side wall, and that circumvents that whole need for a chimney. I just had both installed in my house a couple of years ago. I'm going to take my chimney down because there's nothing venting into it anymore. So I don't have to worry about whether it's lined or not. So it might even be 88% and up. I'm not sure. It gets direct limit. Go ahead.
Matt, do you know if there are additional permits required by Montrose Borough and Bridgewater Township when the gas goes inside the dwelling? And are there inspections for inside the dwelling required?
I do not believe so. I hope we've got a council member here, and I don't. Oh, the question was, are there additional permits for inside the house, for you to install the gas piping inside the house? Yes.
I would look at it just like we're changing your oil furnace or fuel oil tank or something along those lines, no requirement for that right now.
The one thing we recommend, and I'm sure the town does, is that you try to get a licensed professional to do the work. That's all. Just be smart about it for the initial run at least. I got a a million questions going on. I don't even know where to start with. Go ahead, sir.
What other prices or fees are involved with this besides the cost per therm or per cubic foot, as far as meter fees, transportation charges, excise taxes, sales tax?
Okay, bear with me for just a moment.
No.
That's right.
Good thing that's not.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Okay, so I'll try to explain this. So this is the meter fee. So when I gave you that rate of $1,670 a year, included in it is a $20 a month meter charge. So as soon as we put your meter in your house and you start using natural gas, regardless of how much gas you use, you're going to get a $20 charge from us. Okay? Then we have a delivery cost of 65 cents a CCF. And then we have a gas cost, which is what the gas actually costs us, of 48 cents a CCF. And then I call it the CAC, but it's a contribution in aid of construction charge of 30 cents. So when we incorporate all these together, and there might potentially be, I think, a 6% tax in the borough of Montrose on top of that. All we do is collect that. We would be a pass-through. That's not our charge. But basically, this 30 cents a CCF charge goes away after 10 years. This 0.48 or 48 cents per CCF charge is what we can charge you for the gas. So what we'll do at the end of 12 months is a calculation that says what we actually paid for that gas, and if it's less, which it's likely to be because the strip price is below $4.80 an MCF right now, then basically that would show up as a reduction in next year's gas cost. So we can't arbitrarily change this, okay? And then the delivery charge will stay the same forever until we go in for new rates, and the same with the service charge. So that's embedded in our rates. Hopefully that answers your question. And if you want to find more detail about all of our service classes for commercial or for large industrial, you can call me up. I'd be happy to send you a copy of our tariff, or you can go to the PUC website and find our tariff. It's on file. Yes, ma'am. Lake Green.
Is your price for natural gas variable?
What I just indicated is that on an annual basis, the only thing that's going to change on this is potentially this gas cost rate. We can collect 48 cents a CCF. We don't tack any margin on that. So basically, if I'm buying a gas for 48 cents, you get charged 48 cents. If I'm buying it for 45 cents or 30 cents, at the end of a 12-month period, what we do is we calculate what we've overcharged you, and we incorporate it into next year's bill. At the end of 12 months, if I've been paying 50 cents or 60 cents per CCF, in the next year's bill, you would have an add-on onto your bill. So it's not variable in the sense that it changes from month to month with the market. There's a true-up at the end of 12 months. Yes, sir.
Have you got an optimum number of people you want to see signed on? I mean, by homes.
I think,
Ask me a question.
okay.
2 years ago, last year, you guys came here, there was not even a dozen people here.
Right.
And you had listed across the board, Montrose, Philadelphia,
Right.
Great, numbers you wanted to see who wanted to be a part of this system.
Correct.
And I asked you the question, if you failed to get that number, what would you say to yourself, how would you deal with it? You said, well, you can't make a money. You can't make any money at all.
Well, a couple things, and you know, forgive me because I'm old, even though I might not look that way, and I forget what I said 12 months ago. So unless it's recorded, there's no record that I remember. I'm kidding you, but the point being is, Milford is a great example. Okay, we went in there and we said we're confident we're going to get the school if we get to school, we're gonna hook everybody up that's along the street and it won't cost anything for the hookup. Well, the school told us, we don't want natural gas. So we went and looked at our economic model and we went back to the people from New Milford and said, if we get 180 customers, we will build a line through your municipality without connecting the school. So, and that's a perfect example of how we went back and we had to recalculate and identify if we were going to make the numbers from a customer standpoint to get what we believe we needed to get. The borough of Montrose is a little bit different animal because we know we're going to build that backbone system of about 5.5 miles of pipe, regardless of whether or not we get a customer count. We know that if we build that, we're going to get enough municipal and commercial customers that have already talked to us that's going to justify that build out. Now after that, what's going to happen is the applications that you return to us, the applications that Jason and Rich are in charge of, will identify how we expand our system beyond that backbone system that I've just identified. I can tell you right now, I've already got about 150 applications from the borough of Montrose. And I think you put out about 400 flyers to people, 500 flyers to people. So we've already got more than enough customers to justify that backbone system when you talk about adding a few municipal buildings that have indicated they want gas service. But it changes. And if we came in here and everybody said, I don't want natural gas because it doesn't make economic sense to me because gas is more than oil or propane, then obviously we're not going to build a system. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that Marcellus gas has more radon than some other shales, and I'm concerned about the radon that might come into the homes because we already have a good amount of radon in the area. Are you testing for that, or are you putting meters in for that, or recommending people to have some kind of a meter to make sure that it doesn't go over the limited or the minimum amount?
We don't put meters in to test for radon gas. We've talked to the people at Williams. I think we got feedback from them, 2 days ago? Basically, they indicated the amount of radon gas that they have in their gas supply is below the minimum level. Imperceptible is what they told us. Now, we do a gas sample every month, an actual gas sample, and we can get a fractional analysis from the people that provide us gas virtually anytime we want to. And we have no indication that there are elevated levels of radon gas in the Marcellus gas stream. We've known for well over 100 years that there is radon gas of some level in natural gas. The EPA did a study back in 1973 that basically reviewed radon gas, the effects of radon gas in a natural gas stream, and basically said it's incidental exposure that would occur if you had incomplete combustion in your home, or would occur if you had unvented operating equipment in your home, and that an incidental exposure doesn't get you anywhere near the danger level associated with radon gas. I think it's something like, I forget the units, 4 picocuries per liter, something of that nature. So if there is radon gas of appreciable level in the natural gas stream, you would get potentially an incidental exposure if something went wrong. It wouldn't be any greater than the exposure you would get if you're drinking some well water that has radon in it, or out in your front yard. Some people have radon naturally occurring in the front yard. So unless we're given a different indication by a different regulatory body, we basically are operating on the perception that the gas stream is safe.
And then what about if the gas gets exported, and we have gas exported, and the prices are going to be rising because the gas is going to Asia and it's going to go up 4 times the price? Are you going to go higher? Do you have a limit of how high you can go on your gas that you'll guarantee anybody?
I'm not going to guarantee you a level. I can tell you that that likelihood is pretty unlikely for several reasons. One, we're talking about right now we bring around, I think it's 27 billion cubic feet a day out of the Marcellus shale production. And the numbers that I've seen indicate within 10 years, we might be moving 6 BCF a day of LNG, liquefied natural gas overseas. And that's only going to happen if there's a demand for it. So while we're exploring shale gas in the U.S., guess who's learned how to do the same thing we have? The Chinese and the Europeans. So the Chinese have vast shale deposits, just like the Europeans do. And basically, why would someone buy LNG from us that has to be taken out of Cove Point or some other station, transported around the globe or through the Panama Canal to go to an Asian market, when the Chinese can basically produce the same thing and they're closer to the market, and it's going to be cheaper. So that the market is going to dictate where the demand is, and people are not going to pay for a higher priced commodity that comes from the U.S. when they can get it out of their own backyard. Yes, sir.
Could you repeat the answer to the question, if you decide not to hook up when you first went through, but later, give me the answer on that, or it's going to cost the person more or what?
Okay, so if we put a gas line through, and then municipality, you have 10 years to hook up to that gas line at no cost. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I dropped the form off on the office on Borough Avenue.
Right. And what's your name? DeWitt. I'm almost positive I've seen it, but I'm not going to guarantee that right now. But I do have a database. I'm the keeper of the file, so I see a lot of names. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about people that are on propane or oil.
Great.
What's going to be the incentive for someone that's total electric?
Well, I have to look at a couple of things. And good question. Switching over from electric to natural gas is probably the most expensive conversion with regards to putting in the equipment in your home and a lot of the work, because you've got to put in either duct work or you've got to put in lines for radiant heat. And also you've got to look at the cost of your commodity. I think if your electricity is less than 4 cents or 5 cents a kilowatt hour, you're probably not interested in going to natural gas.
Not last winter, it wasn't.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Houses on the other side of the road from the main, we hate to have our roads messed up in this town.
Right. I'd answer that question, but I'll be wrong, so I'll let Matt do it. And we'll be more than glad to help you with that. We often are accused of messing up the roads. Yeah, there's going to be a main on one side of the street. There's going to be a couple of streets where we're going to have dual main on both sides. And we did that because there's a lot of stuff in the street itself that we want to avoid. But in most cases, their main will be on one side of the street or the other. In that case, we will do everything we can to bore across the street. I talked about boring earlier. We'll do everything we can to avoid cutting the street. I can't promise you that we will, but we'll do everything we can to avoid doing it. The only thing is, when we do bore, it's a state, well, it's a federal law, that you have to expose any other utilities that are in your way when you're boring. So if I'm crossing water, sewer, electric, cable, telephone, anything else that's there, and I'm crossing it with a bore, I have to expose that what's there to see it. I've got to physically see it before I can run that bore through there. So even if I'm going trenchless with a boring machine, I still might have to have a few holes in there depending upon, but they'll be smaller and they'll be a lot easier to patch. Okay, we'll do everything we can to tear up the streets. This lady, everything we can to avoid tearing up the streets. Sorry. Freudian slip. I told you, we get accused of, right after the street just got paved, we're in there digging it up. Ma'am, right in the back there. I believe they can, yeah. Most cases. Now, it depends on the age of it and condition and all that stuff, but I think in most cases they can be. Definitely have somebody come in and check it. Next person.
You mentioned about 706 and that you have been somehow
I know, the members of the town council are, and actually, that's a state road, yeah, so. Nobody from the state is here. Yeah, well, our idea, or like I said at the beginning, was whenever we're in a municipality, they generally want us off of the pavement. So we are gonna try everything we can to be between the sidewalk and the curb, maybe just outside the sidewalk, in the grass, in the areas where there's no pavement. We're gonna try to be in most cases. So then by doing that, that eliminates having to pave the road and then also causing you guys a lot of problems with dugout pavement, like we talked about a minute ago, okay? I'm focusing right in front of me, I'm just working my way this way. The gentleman in the black shirt, black sweater.
You brought a line out to McCollum Road.
Yes.
McCollum Road. Are you going to be going east or west on 706 in the near future?
Not in the near future, but as time goes on, we'll look at it again. There's, what do you got, the highway out there and a few other good-sized stuff. We've been concentrating in the borough and trying to stay there first, but we'll start over the year, or over the next couple of years, we'll start looking to grow beyond it, yes. Then there was somebody else just further in front of him. Well, go ahead, in the blue shirt.
Yeah, it was a follow-up on 706 heading out west.
Okay. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
I didn't change my answer.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You said you bring it down High Street and
Yes.
and the little side streets that are off of, say, High Street.
Yes.
Are you requiring a certain number of people on the side streets?
All of them.
Why not that far? High Street, but a lot of people down below you
Right.
on it. How does that
Well,
work?
let's say you're the first person on the street. Let's say we're coming down Lake Ave, and you're the first person on the corner, let's say, or one in. We could run a stub and stop it right there and just leave it. That's possible. I won't guarantee it, but that is possible. If you are the last person on that street all the way down to the end, and I gotta go 2 blocks, probably not this year. It'll be, if everybody, or not everybody, I don't know what kind of percentage we're looking for, but it's gonna have to be.
As many as we can get.
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount of footage off that main?
Well, I messed up a little while ago and said 100 foot forever. And if that were the case, it'd be 100 foot, 100 foot, 100 foot. So we'd have to have 10 customers to go 1,000 feet. But that's not the case. So it's kind of hard to come up with a percentage because of this contribution in aid of construction. So it's gonna have to be 50 to 60% of them, I'm gonna guess, in order to make a 1 block street. Right? Am I firing off? Again, I'm going to get corrected. I apologize.
No, Matt's not going to get corrected. We look at it from 2 different aspects. So he's the operations guy, and he's counting every dime that goes in the ground. And I'm one of the marketing guys, and we're looking at it from the standpoint is we want to get as many customers as possible. So the short answer is because we have that 30 cent per CCF charge, basically, if we wanted to, we could probably pipe the entire borough of Montrose without customer commitment. Now, we probably won't do that because it introduces a lot of risk to us. So we're going to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and you're going to have Matt saying, it cost me this much to put in, and you're going to have Joe Maravito and the guy I work for, Mike German, putting their heads together saying, well, we're going to do the street anyway, or we don't have enough customers to do that. So it's a more of an organic process because we have that socialized cost of 30 cents per CCF embedded in our rates. Because after that goes away in 10 years, then we are going to look at each individual customer and say, we don't have enough customers here to do the expansion. So now the time is now to get the gas line in and get connected.
Okay, why don't we wrap things up? We're going to be here for a while. Rich Thrasher is outside the door. If you have more questions, we're here. Come on up, ask us. But we got about 15 minutes through the room, so if you have any questions, come up and ask. Thank you for attending.
Oh, okay, all right. I was gonna say, I just
in the end, the map they showed it, and Matt's kind of vague. He's an operational guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to make promises. But in the end, what you saw on the map is what we eventually want to get. And all the only determination there is where we're going to go first. Okay, and that's determined by how many employees or how many applications we have. That's all that it is. Hello. Thank you. How are you? Shoot.
Clarify the service charge. In Millville, I understood a meter charge per month.
Right.
And then another charge for the line coming in that would go for 10 years.
Yes, and it's the same here. There's a meter charge of $20, then there's the CPAC charge, which is the construction charge that goes for 10 years. It's a rough estimate based on how much gas that you use. So I think it was like 30 cents per CCF, which is just a fraction of the bill. But it's still all included in those discussions. An average figure? No, I don't. No, I don't want to guess and misspeak.
That was $20.
No, there's a $20 service charge. That's going to be there regardless forever. Okay, every single month. But then there's an additional charge, 30 cents per CCF. So if you use 1,000 CCF in your house, it would be $30 a month. If that makes sense.
$20 and $30 plus the amount of gas that you use.
Yes.
$50 that you're paying before you buy your
As an estimate, yes. That's as an estimate, absolutely.
Okay, now my other question is,
now you got to remember, in the summertime, if you're not using any gas, you're not paying that CPAC charge. Okay? But again, it's just an estimate. Okay?
the other thing is, a number of us are concerned about radon.
Sure.
And I wondered if you would give us a range of hypocuries.
Well, I'm not.
In our
We have
gas
problems with
that
our
we
roof stove there.
have right here.
It's all the chemicals that upset it.
I cannot. That would be a Russ or Matt question. In the end, like you said, they take a sample every month as some type of requirement, and they'll test for whatever it is that Pennsylvania requires us to test for.
Now, who does that test?
I'm not sure what laboratory it is. I don't know if
Is it done when the gas is put in your pipe?
I don't. You know, that's another good question for us. I'm not sure where they're going to take the test, but I'm sure it would be out of our distribution system if it's our test. Yes.
Because the gas that you're going to be using for these towns will be coming from gas from these towns.
Yes.
So that's the gas that I would assume will be tested.
Sure. Certainly. It would be the gas that we receive out of the distribution.
Now, is the test going to include the radioactivity rate of hypocuries?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. To be honest, that is. I'm not sure.
If that will be included?
We can. Yes. I can ask us. Yes,
There are
I don't know.
people who would like to use gas because they feel it's cheaper.
They're concerned about the rate.
Yes.
I agree.
And so-
All we have.
Only thing is, it's awful cold down there. You know what that sells, about 40.
We don't have the ability as a company to test for any type of radon. Okay? We do what Russ said is take a sample of gas and ship it to whoever the regulatory body is. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that right now. But
You yourself take the sample that you're going to
we'll provide a sample. Yes.
Well, I ask you because this question is
If it comes out of our distribution.
Down in the basement with you, so I'd have to hear it.
That's right.
Sure. Yeah. No, you did. I have no idea. Unfortunately.
Because I've heard that it's pretty high here.
I have no idea. Sure. No, I agree. I think Russ attempted to answer it. It's been relayed to us that it is a non-issue, that the levels of radon in any of the gas around here are so low that it's.
Who relates that to?
I believe Russ said Williams.
Well, thank you very much.
You ladies have a nice night. Do you have a?
Thank
do
you.
have a
And your
nice
name,
night?
and your name is Rich Thrasher?
Thrasher, yes, ma'am.
And what's your position?
I'm in sales.
Sales?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are supplied by the industry.
Sure.
So their figures in their meeting is a certain number.
Certain.
But then there was another sample done. New York City was very concerned.
Sure.
And they talked about another test.
You folks have a nice night. I'm Rich Thrasher.
Yeah, I talked to you on the phone. The Cooper Union.
This from who?
The Cooper Union.
Oh, Cooper Union in New York City?
Yeah, they did
And what did they?
a conference.
And what did they find in Marcellus?
They said that the average levels at the wellhead is 150 to 160 picocuries per liter.
That's from Marcellus.
Yeah. The U.S. Geological Survey did a limited survey, and they found a median level of 37 with a high level of 79 at the point of extraction. That would be at the well. The samples were chosen by the industry, and there can be a variation in well radon readings. But then another study showed, and I'm not sure whether this was the EPA or somebody else, much higher levels, making the 125 picocurie per liter reading that they showed below in New York City more understandable. And you can hear about this on the first two parts of the Cooper Union video program. So
then transit time, what is transit?
This is all what they're in New York estimating, that the transit time from our Marcellus region, our gas here to New York City, is approximately 15 to 20 hours, making the radon levels approximately 105 picocuries.
125, yeah,
depending on the numbers used at the source.
In the end, ladies, you have to talk to Russ. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that information.
So, but meanwhile, we don't have any transit time here.
That's right.
Right? It just goes directly from here. Is this Russ right here?
This is Russ.
Hi, Russ.
Hi, how are you?
We have another question about radon.
Okay.
If we can get, so you got a response from Williams that said did they give you an amount when they said it was negligible of the radon in the gas? That's what you stated, I think.
No, yeah, I did. They didn't give us a specific amount. They just said it was negligible to the point where they couldn't measure it.
They couldn't even measure it. But meanwhile, we have U.S. Geological Service measurements about the radon, Marcellus radon here. We have figures that show, what, about 100...
let's see. Well,
a median level.
One study said that the wellhead had 150 to 160 picocuries here.
I've read that study. All I can tell you is that when I talked to the people from Williams, they told us it was.
Well, can they give you anything in writing, what the amount is? Did they test it, or is it just their word? Can we get something in writing?
We probably can, yeah.
Because we have natural radon here that's...
analysis that shows what's in the gas. What they're telling me is basically the measurements they've taken in their gas stream, the radon is unappreciable. So if we were to get more specific than that, to go back.
Yeah, but can they give it to you in writing? I mean, they're saying it to you.
Sure we can.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you could have some kind of technology that you can take continuous readings?
I'm sure.
So you'll know what the variation is, and if there's a spike, then we might know about it.
I'm sure there is. And, you know, it all has to do with how much money people are willing to spend. Now, my point would be, obviously, we don't want to send anything to anybody's home that's going to harm them. But history has indicated that we don't have extremely high levels or levels that we should be serious about, other than potentially incidental exposure. And when we look at the northeastern United States or even the mid-Atlantic United States at this point, the majority of the gas in the pipeline are all from shale formations. You have the Barnett Shale, you have the Fayetteville Shale, you have the Utica Shale, you have the Marcellus Shale. So, you know, I'm not someone, as you are, who blindly accepts what people tell us, especially if they're from large government organizations or large corporations. But by the same token, I find it hard to believe that our government and these large corporations will allow us to poison our own population when the majority of the gas that we're all receiving now is coming from the shale formation that's been hydrotherapy.
Yeah, but if it's coming from Texas and Louisiana, their shale, the level of radioactivity
Could be sometime, but
much, much lower.
Well, I think what you're indicating is that
each independent shell formation, the level of radioactivity is homogeneous. Because it's Marcellus shale, if I go to the Marcellus shale outside of Pittsburgh, or the Marcellus shale outside of Susquehanna County, I'm going to have the same level of radioactivity.
No. I don't.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm hearing from you. You're saying, I think you're implying that all Marcellus shale has a higher level of radioactivity.
I'm saying that the radioactivity in the Marcellus shale is higher than the radioactivity in the shale in the west and southwest.
But again, what you're indicating is that all Marcellus shale has a higher level of radioactivity than Barnett or Fayetteville.
I think that's true.
But I don't know how we can say that. I think we can say in some areas maybe there's a higher level of radioactivity, depending on the specific characteristics of that Marcellus shale formation.
I think there,
Than
you're right,
other
there is a
areas.
variation
So we can't,
in Marcellus.
not that anybody has quantified or qualified that the Marcellus shale radiation level from radon is unacceptable. But I don't think that we can say on a whole that Marcellus shale gas has a similar radioactive radon signature across the entire formation. I think some areas may differ from others. My point being is, I don't have that number. You want me to get a number, I'll go back to Philadelphia Williams and get a number from you. And when I have it, I'll be happy to share it with you.
We can find out
Did you guys get a magnet?
Yes, we
what
did.
the mercury level is in the gas that comes from here that we are going to be getting.
From here. And then couldn't we also test our own homes? We could have testers in our homes and we can see the level that's coming in.
I'm sure you could again, but we're talking about putting equipment in your home that's probably very expensive. And if there's an identified need to do that, certainly it's understandable, but I don't think that need has a benefit.
Not so much for you to do. We could do it ourselves.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's not that expensive. I saw that there's actual meters that you can plug into the outlet, and it would test the microcuries. And it would tell you what the level is, like before you get installed. And so you have a baseline, and then after you get installed, and see if there's any kind of a spike that's over the minimum amount.
I think that that's a great idea and a great application, a great device if you can get it.
Yeah,
the
they
thing
exist.
The thing that I worry about is the level of accuracy in a device like that. Typically, things that you can buy, say, and I'm not saying you can get it at Home Depot, but things that you can buy from a retail store that monitor anything have a lower degree of accuracy compared to
Well, that's possible. So at least if we saw a spike, we could then contact you, your company, and then you might be able to get something that's more sophisticated, or an agency or regulatory agency get something more sophisticated and test it and see if it's accurate and what the accuracy is.
We definitely could do that, but I think that historically, within the industry, and obviously there are varying opinions on this, but within the industry, the prevalence of high levels of radon in the gas stream have not been identified to be significant enough to warrant the industry changing the way that it monitors things. It doesn't mean it won't change in the future. And as I said earlier, we don't want to be in a situation where we're providing a product to people that's going to be harming people.
Right, but the gas that you're dealing with in New York is not Marcellus.
Yes, it is.
It is Marcellus?
The gas that we're dealing with in the entire Northeast, the majority of the gas in the pipeline is Marcellus
okay,
shale gas.
so the
and
gas...
Corning Natural Gas is the only utility in New York State that has a direct connect to the Marcellus shale gas.
So you're having Marcellus gas right now in New York State, but is it being mixed with some other gases from other areas, or just Marcellus?
It's being mixed with other gas, but that other gas that it's being mixed with is predominantly Marcellus shale gas. This gas is coming up the Dominion pipeline, up the Tennessee pipeline, up the Transco pipeline. They all run through the middle of Marcellus shale country, and they all take...
So you haven't tested anything in New York at the homes there and the connections that you have there for the radon? Have you done any tests at all?
We test the gas. We do a fractional analysis on a monthly basis. We know what's in the gas stream, and we've had no reason to check for radioactivity in the gas stream.
So you haven't checked for radioactivity?
We have no reason to.
No reason to?
No regulatory body requires us to check for that.
And no regulatory body is requiring it?
Right.
That's interesting. And your name is again?
My name is Russ Miller.
Russ Miller, and your position is?
VP of Gas Supply and Marketing.
Okay, and then you can maybe get back to us on Williams. I can give you a contact information.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the interview.